In a world driven by data, algorithms, and relentless scientific progress, you'd think we'd have all the answers by now. But every so often, the universe throws us a curveball. Something so bizarre, so unexplainable, that even the brightest minds in science are left confused. I'm Mike with List 25, and here are incredible discoveries that science can't explain. Geometry, or math based on shapes and angles and such, actually started way back in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. I'm talking 2000 BCE at least. Historical evidence shows that this early form of geometry came in useful for measurements, not to mention construction and land surveys. The word geometry is derived from ancient Greek. That civilization named it after geo, as in earth, and metron, i.e., measure. Scientists at the Weizmann Institute in Israel have created the first ever synthetic embryo. No sperm, no eggs, no fertilization. They used stem cells from mice to grow an embryo-like structure complete with a tiny brain, an intestinal tract, and even a beating heart. For many religious people, the idea of creating life in a lab goes against everything they believe. And even if you're not religious, it's hard to ignore the ethical questions that it raises. What are the limits? Should we even be doing this? If it has a brain, can it think? Feel? While researchers highlight the potential benefits like improved transplants and fewer animal studies, it raises serious questions about just how far we're willing to go in the name of science. There's a reason all the biggest fast food restaurants' decor is full of yellow and red. These colors don't just catch your eye, they actually make you feel hungrier and more energized. It's been scientifically proven that yellow makes us feel cheerful and ready to eat, while red amps up our excitement and urgency, making it harder to say no to any tempting treats. Combining them makes for a perfect storm of comfort and satisfaction, which encourages you to indulge and perhaps order more than you planned. It's a very clever trick to keep us coming back for more. Everything is made of atoms, and you'd be surprised to hear the age of some of these things. It's estimated that certain atoms in the human body can be traced back an incredible 13.7 billion years. That's because of ingredients like hydrogen, which came from the all-important Big Bang. It's believed that 2 out of every 3 atoms are connected to the Big Bang. But I need to put that in context, however. Each human is composed of approximately 7 billion atoms. Our bodies are tied up with the origins of the universe, but this only takes up a tiny part of our overall makeup. Deep within the Earth, buried miles below the surface, lie 2 enormous mysteries known as the blobs. Okay, scientists call them large, low shear velocity provinces, but the blobs sounds way more fun, right? These giant structures, one under Africa and the other beneath the Pacific, have been puzzling scientists since they were first discovered in the 70s. And here's the thing. We still don't know much about them. We don't know how old they are, how they formed, or what they're even doing down there. Their density and impact on Earth's geology? Still up for debate. But what we do know is that these blobs are massive and incredibly hot. Way hotter than Mount Everest. To give you an example of just how big they are, if they were on Earth's surface, the International Space Station would have to change its course to not hit them. Incredible, right? What if machines could think or feel the way we do? Some researchers believe that as AI becomes more advanced, it might develop its own form of consciousness. This idea, called panpsychism in artificial intelligence, suggests that awareness isn't limited to living beings. It could exist in circuits and code too. If true, this would radically change our understanding of consciousness and blur the line between life and machines. It also raises serious ethical questions. Should a conscious AI have rights? How should it be treated? And what happens if machines become capable of understanding human emotions or even feeling them? Have you ever had that weird feeling that you're reliving something straight out of a dream? It's known as déjà rêvé, which literally means already dreamed. It's basically déjà vu's dreamier cousin. Instead of just feeling familiar, it's like you're recalling a scene from a dream that's now playing out in real life. Unlike déjà vu, which is a vague sense of familiarity with something you haven't experienced before, déjà rêvé is all about connecting the moment to a specific dream memory. It's pretty common and nothing to stress about. Just another peculiarity of our minds that makes you wonder just how much our dreams and reality are mixed up. Rainforests must be protected. However, we also need the forests to protect us. For example, Lapacho has been used in herbal tea. This reportedly gives it an anti-inflammatory and antioxidant qualities. It's also thought to be effective in the treatment of cancer, though my advice, as always, is to consult experts as extensively as possible before putting anything into action. Since the early 90s, giraffes have been plagued by a puzzling skin disease affecting both wild and captive populations, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. Experts are still investigating whether this condition is a result of multiple diseases or if environmental factors are to blame. The cause, how it spreads, its potential impact on other species, and even the possible treatments remain unknown. Fortunately, Fred Burkovich, director of Save the Giraffes, believes that this issue shouldn't be the main focus of conservation efforts just yet. For now, scientists are still trying to determine how the disease impacts the giraffes' reproduction and mobility, which will help guide future conservation strategies. Scientists at the State University of New York have successfully developed a way to control rats' minds. By sending electrical signals directly into their brains, researchers can guide their movements from a distance of up to 460 meters, or 1,500 feet. While this raises serious ethical concerns for the poor rats, the implications go far beyond animal welfare. The fact that minds, any minds, can be controlled like this is terrifying. If this technology evolves, it could be adapted for larger animals, or even humans. Seriously, the potential for abuse is staggering. What's being tested on rats today could have very scary consequences for humanity tomorrow. Have you ever seen a double rainbow? They look absolutely magical, but that second rainbow is actually just a reversed reflection of the first. It usually happens when sunlight bounces around twice inside a raindrop before exiting, causing the colors to flip. This double reflection process makes the second rainbow appear fainter, and its colors are in reverse order: red on the inside and violet on the outside, instead of the usual way around, which we all know is Roy-G. Biv. Double rainbows are best spotted when the sun is low in the sky, like in the early morning or late afternoon, and they need large raindrops to form. The second arc usually appears about 10 degrees above the primary one, creating a beautiful mirrored display that's a rare treat for those who catch it. They're as unique as it gets. The old expression about snowflakes being distinct from each other is true, it turns out. Conceivably, you might get some duplicates, but do you really want to be the one counting billions of snowflakes to reach that conclusion? Remember also that snowflakes fall to the ground, and this can affect their shape. They really are among the most unpredictable structures in a world where nature often repeats itself. Something mysterious is erupting from the frozen ground in Antarctica, and it could shatter the world of physics as we know it. The phenomenon involves high-energy cosmic rays blasting through space, entering Earth, and evaporating back into space. According to the standard model of particle physics, this shouldn't be possible at all. While low-energy particles can pass through miles of rock without being affected, high-energy particles typically collide with something soon after entering the Earth and never make it out. Scientists believe it might be a new kind of particle altogether, like a rare type of neutrino or something unusual with dark matter. Research combining data from ANITA and another Antarctic observatory, IceCube, shows that these particles actually have less than a 1 in 3.5 million chance of fitting into our current understanding of physics. The WO virus is a bacteriophage, meaning it targets bacteria that live inside spiders and insects. What sets this virus apart is that it hasn't just stolen genetic material from bacteria, but also from its host, the black widow spider. Specifically, WO has hijacked the gene responsible for producing the spider's deadly venom, and to make matters worse, WO has also co-opted genes that allow it to evade the immune systems of its hosts. So now we have a rapidly mutating, immune-resistant virus armed with the genetic blueprint for black widow venom. And while it doesn't target humans yet, that's not exactly comforting. Have you ever wondered why coffee shops are packed with people studying or working on projects instead of just enjoying their lattes? There's actually some science behind it. The sweet spot for boosting focus and creativity is around 70 decibels, which happens to be the average noise level in your favorite coffee shop. This perfect blend of background buzz helps you concentrate and think abstractly, making it the ideal spot for tackling work or studying. So, the next time you need to hit the books, skip the library and grab a table at your local cafe. When something grows out of the ground, we know there's a lot going on below ground too. Roots and threads growing and acting like a bunch of little fiber optic cables. The comparison is greater than you think, with nutrients and even communication signals passed along the threads. You'll find this with fungi, which use mycelium as sort of an internet. Experts call it the wood wide web. Something to think about next time you're picking a mushroom. Tomatoes might seem more simple compared to humans, but they actually have a surprising genetic edge. A tomato has about 32,000 genes, which is roughly 7,000 more than the number found in humans. This genetic idiosyncrasy dates back 70 million years, when the tomato plant family tripled its gene count, in the process giving each gene 3 copies. Over time, unnecessary genes were lost, but the useful ones stuck around. Now, when we compare our genes, we humans rely on a technique called alternative splicing, which allows one gene to be rearranged in various ways to perform different functions. How tomatoes managed to pack in so many genes is still unclear, but it might have helped them to survive the cataclysmic time on Earth when the dinosaurs were going extinct. In case you're wondering why it has my name on it, this is actually from my cousin's wedding. This is how they did their place cards for what table you were sitting at. So, death is supposed to be the end, right? But new research shows the brain might not shut down as quickly as we thought. Some genes linked to brain growth and repair can reactivate hours or even days after a person is declared clinically dead. The implications are horrifying to say the least. If the brain is still active, could there be some kind of lingering awareness? And if that's possible, what would you say it means for how we define death? The findings are forcing scientists to rethink what happens in the hours or days after the heart stops, and it's raising questions that we're not quite ready to answer. Water molds may look like fungi, but they're actually a different group altogether. Unlike true fungi, which have cell walls made of chitin, water molds build theirs from a mix of cellulosic compounds and glycan. Plus, the nuclei in their cells are diploid, meaning they have 2 sets of genetic information compared to fungi's haploid setup. They might mimic fungi, but they have their own biological blueprint. You probably already know that when you cut into a tree, you see rings. And from those rings, you could work out how old the tree is. Well, you can also use these rings as a tracker of climate change. Did you know that a tree's rings are thin in cold, dry weathers and spaced apart when it's warm and moist? Experts get an idea of what the weather was like years back, thanks to a regular old tree. In 2018, astronomers stumbled upon something totally unexpected. Mika Persianen and his team at the Cerro Tololo International Observatory in Chile witnessed 72 bursts of light from deep space. And the bursts were massive. Ranging from 300 million to 15 billion kilometers across, they shone just as brightly as a supernova, but didn't last nearly long enough. The best and brightest minds came together to figure it out, and theorized that these bursts could be linked to a Type II supernova, which happens when a star sheds its outer layers after its core collapses. Others feel it might have been a fast-evolving luminous transient. Their theory proposes that during the early stages of a star's collapse, gas bubbles might form inside the star. When the star eventually goes supernova, these gas bubbles could explode, creating the intense bursts of light observed. For now, both theories are still being investigated. Did you know that being single for life can increase your risk of developing dementia by 42%? And it's not just lifelong singles. Widowers face a 20% higher risk too. The risks also extend to cancer care. Researcher Joan Del Fattore uncovered that single patients often receive less aggressive treatments due to biased assumptions about their ability to cope alone. Del Fattore herself had to fight for life-saving care after her doctor doubted her resilience without a spouse. Your height isn't just about having tall parents, though that definitely helps. It's actually the result of a complex genetic symphony. Known as a polygenic trait, height is influenced by many different genes working together, which is why it doesn't follow simple inheritance rules like eye color or blood type. Scientists believe about 80% of your height is determined by genetic variants you inherit, but the specifics are still being unraveled. So far, they've identified over 700 gene variants, each playing a small role in deciding how tall you'll be. But it's not all written in your genes. Environmental factors like your mom's nutrition during pregnancy, your diet growing up, and overall health also have a significant impact. So, while your DNA sets the foundation, your lifestyle and environment shape the final structure, influencing just how tall you'll grow. A surprising discovery in Alaska has researchers scratching their heads. A team from the University of Colorado Boulder found a prehistoric bronze artifact, a small buckle-like object buried in an ancient Inuit dwelling. The artifact, which yielded a radiocarbon date of roughly 600 CE, is about 2 inches by 1 inch and was possibly used as a belt buckle or part of a harness. With no known bronze production in Alaska at the time, the artifact in all likelihood came from East Asia, perhaps Korea, China, Manchuria, or southern Siberia. It could even have been traded from the steppe region, where bronze casting began thousands of years ago. Alternatively, it might have traveled with early Inuit who migrated from Siberia into Alaska about 1500 years ago, but nobody knows for sure. Prions are tiny proteins with a horrifying ability. They misfold and trigger a domino effect, causing other proteins in your brain to do the same. This chain reaction leads to the buildup of amyloid plaques, which destroy brain tissue. The result is rapid and uncontrollable neurodegeneration that is always fatal. The worst part is that we have no idea why it happens or how to stop it. Prion disease can appear out of nowhere, be inherited, or be contracted, and symptoms can take years to show. But once they do, victims usually have less than 2 years to live, and their final months are nothing short of agonizing. Your mouth is home to more than just 72 varieties of bacteria. It also produces one of the most powerful painkillers known to science. It's called opioorphin, and it's a substance in your saliva that is 6 times stronger than morphine. Opioorphin works by protecting chemicals called enkephalins, which keep pain signals from reaching your brain. Without opioorphin, these chemicals break down, and those pain signals start screaming through your nervous system. Researchers at the Pasteur Institute of Paris tested opioorphin's power on rats and found it took just 1 milligram per kilogram of body weight to block pain. For comparison, the rats needed 3 times as much morphine to achieve the same effect. The best part? Opioorphin doesn't have the addictive side effects of morphine, and might even have antidepressant properties. Pumice can be overlooked as a material because we connect it with scraping dead skin off our feet. I mean, who wants to think about that? But you should look closer at pumice because it has a special quality. It's low density and is full of air holes created when lava cools. Because of this, it can float, which is more than you can say for other rocks. For such a light and delicate thing to emerge from a volcano is quite an achievement. In 2018, the Earth seemed to ring like a bell, with strange waves, starting near the island of Mayotte by Madagascar, traveling across the planet for over 20 minutes. The weirdest part in all of this was that scientists didn't notice until a civilian checking a live seismograph feed flagged it. Seismologists were floored. These waves looked like the after effects of a powerful undersea eruption, but no eruption happened that day. Even stranger, the waves had a single repeating signal every 17 seconds, something you usually don't find with earthquakes. While there are theories about quiet earthquakes or collapsing magma chambers, the true cause of these mysterious waves remains unexplained. Well, here's a fact to make your skin crawl. Your face is home to thousands of microscopic mites, and they're getting busy while you sleep. Demodex folliculorum and Demodex brevis are tiny creatures that live in your hair follicles, especially around your eyebrows, eyelashes, and hairline. Scientists guesstimate that the average person carries between 1.5 to 2.5 million of these mites. Why the nighttime activity? Well, as scientist Holly Menninger explained, it's probably because it's safer for them to crawl out and party while their human host is asleep. So, sweet dreams, I guess. When a baby is born, they have just about 1 cup or 240 milliliters of blood in their tiny body. I know it doesn't seem like much compared to the 1.2 to 1.5 gallons or 4.5 to 5.7 liters that adults carry around, but size matters here. The bigger you are, the more blood you need to keep everything running smoothly. So even though it might seem like a newborn is running low, that 1 cup is all they need to start life healthy and strong. Our planet is usually a very noisy place. But during the Paleoproterozoic era, roughly 2.2 to 2.3 billion years ago, the Earth went through a weird period of silence. During a 2018 study, researchers analyzed rocks from China, northern Canada, Western Australia, and southern Africa, and the results were consistent. The data confirmed that the Earth's rock-forming processes went on vacation for about 100 million years. During this time, volcanic activity dwindled, tectonic plates barely moved, and sedimentation slowed dramatically. When things finally heated up again, volcanoes erupted anew, and the continental crust began to change and fracture, shifting tectonic behavior to what we see today. The reasons for this ancient geological silence, and its sudden end, remain a mystery. Well, first water, now plants. A few years ago, evolutionary ecologist Monica Gagliano set out to prove that plants might be smarter than we think. Using Mimosa pudica, a plant that closes its leaves when touched, Gagliano built a special shelf that dropped the plants a few feet. At first, the plants reacted defensively, curling their leaves shut. But after being dropped a few times, they stopped responding, as if they realized there was no danger. To test their memory, Gagliano paused the experiment for a month, and then dropped the shelf again. The mimosa plants stayed calm, proving that they remembered the experience and knew it was harmless. Did you know that the enzyme helping you digest food can start digesting you just days after death? It's called autolysis, or self-digestion, and it kicks in when cells break down after death. Once those cell membranes give out, the enzymes inside are released and begin to break down tissues from the inside out. It's basically like your body's own self-destruct process, just a whole lot more creepy. So, let's just forget I told you that. It's a great title, but sadly not accurate. I'm sorry, Mr. Bond. Diamonds aren't as tough as they look and can degrade just like anything else. Give it enough time and your sparkling diamond will turn into a lump of graphite. You'll be pleased to hear that this takes a long time, unless you're hitting it with a laser or something. In 2015, a submarine volcano erupted near Tonga, creating a brand new island. By 2018, NASA scientists arrived, only to discover that they weren't the first visitors. Plants, a barn owl, and sooty terns had already made the new island their home. However, the island had quite a few additional, unexpected surprises. Researchers discovered a mysterious clay-like mud that covered the island. This sticky substance, visible in satellite photos, had no clear origin. To add to the oddities, what appeared to be dark sandy beaches in the satellite images actually turned out to be beaches full of pea-sized rocks. The island's peculiar features currently defy explanation. Science is supposed to rely on facts, but a surprising number of studies don't hold up under scrutiny. In 2015, researchers tried to replicate 100 psychology experiments from top journals. The result? Only 40% of them produced the same results, and even the ones that worked showed weaker effects than reported. In 2018, another team tested 21 influential studies from prestigious journals like Nature and Science. They used larger participant groups, pre-registered their methods to avoid bias, and tighten the process. Still, only 13 studies held up under scrutiny. That's less than 2/3. Are you afraid of using long words? Yeah, I wasn't either, until I learned there's actually a scientific term for it. Hippopotamonstrosophilia. Talk about irony, right? It's the fear of long words, with a name that's almost impossible to pronounce. The idea dates all the way back to the Roman poet Horace, who poked fun at people for using big words to sound smart. Then in 2000, American poet Amy Nezhukumatathil revived it to capture the phenomenon. While it's probably not a word we'll carry around in our vocabulary, it is a fun reminder that even our fear of long words has a bit of science behind it. We tend to take color vision for granted, but there's a specific reason why we see the way we do. Our eyes contain things called cones, located in our retinas. These photoreceptor cells take the light we see and zap the information to our brains, resulting in a glorious color effect. Meanwhile, an animal, like say a raccoon, has what's known as monochromat vision, i.e. black and white. So while they can't enjoy the color spectrum, they do have excellent night vision. For centuries, people have reported seeing strange glowing lights before or during earthquakes, but the cause of these earthquake lights has remained a mystery. Today, some of our latest research might finally be shedding light on the mystery, no pun intended. Scientists have dug into historical reports of earthquake lights from around the world, and their findings suggest that the stress on rocks during an earthquake generates an electric field, which could explain the mysterious glow. While it hasn't been proven yet, the theory offers a promising lead and might bring us closer to understanding the incredible phenomenon. It's a tough truth to swallow, but not every parent is thrilled about having children. The Opinion Research Institute asked 2,045 parents if they'd choose to have kids again if they could turn back time. The results? Nearly 20% of both mothers and fathers admitted they'd opt for a child-free life. For most of them, the regret stems from the impact parenting has on their careers. These parents believe they could have achieved more professionally without the responsibilities of raising children. DNA isn't just the code that makes you, well, you. It also has a hidden talent for putting out fires. Scientists have found that when DNA is exposed to high heat, its phosphate backbone releases phosphoric acid. This clever reaction draws water out of flammable materials like cotton, leaving behind a flame-resistant carbon-rich layer. DNA also releases ammonia, which dilutes flammable gases and creates a slow-burning protective layer. While this discovery is still in its early stages, meaning your favorite DNA-coated shirt isn't washing machine friendly yet, it's a promising glimpse into how nature's blueprint could one day keep us safer from flames. How old would you say robots are? The word robot was dreamt up by Karol Čapek, a playwright in Czechoslovakia in the early 20th century. But what we think of as robot goes back even further, to the late 15th century, in the times of Leonardo da Vinci. Luckily for us, da Vinci illustrated his ideas and inventions, some of which were realized and, well, some of them not. He designed a mechanical man resembling a knight in armor. Did it work? Well, we don't actually have a time machine to go back and ask him. Venus is often called a hellscape, and for good reason. It's the hottest planet in our solar system, with temperatures soaring to 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Its atmosphere is a thick, carbon dioxide-rich blanket, with clouds of sulfuric acid swirling above a landscape of sharp volcanic lava flows. Add in surface pressure that's 92 times greater than what we experience here on Earth, and it's clear why Venus is so inhospitable. But here's the twist. Some scientists think Venus might have once been a lot like Earth, possibly even with liquid water oceans. And that raises big questions about our own planet. And more importantly, why did Venus become this fiery wasteland while Earth remained a paradise? There are currently two main theories on the table. One suggests that the sun might have scorched Venus into oblivion, while the other points to volcanic activity as the culprit. For now, however, it remains a mystery. The theory, called water memory, suggests that water can remember whatever it comes into contact with, whether it's music, words, or even thoughts. The theory originated with Masaru Emoto, a Japanese researcher who claimed that water forms different crystalline structures depending on its exposure to words, music, and thoughts. While the scientific community remains skeptical, some studies actually do suggest that water's molecular structure might react to external influences. If true, it could change everything. I mean, just think about it. What would it mean for us if water retains traces of its environment? Could it affect what we drink, how medicines work, or even our own bodies? And I'm pretty sure that was the entire plot of Frozen 2. Water usually puts fires out, but add superreactive metals like sodium and potassium, and you're in for a fiery surprise. These metals are so volatile that they're always bonded with other elements in nature. When they hit the water, they don't just fizzle, they explode. The reaction kicks out hydrogen ions and replaces them with metal ions, releasing a ton of heat and hydrogen gas. Add a little oxygen from the air, and boom, you've got an instant fireball. So while water is great for putting out most fires, with the wrong metal, it can turn into a pyrotechnic show you'd never expect. Sometimes amazing scientific discoveries happen in the unlikeliest of circumstances. Clara Lazin proposed a new type of molecule called tetranitrotoxycarbon in 2012. Yes, you can apparently create your own molecules, provided you have the know-how and technology to back them up. If that didn't sound unlikely enough, wait till you hear Clara's age. She came up with this thing while she was in the 5th grade. So around 10. Every year, NASA's Operation Icebridge flies over the polar regions to keep tabs on any ice changes. In 2018, something extraordinary caught their eyes over the eastern Beaufort Sea. Massive craters in the sea ice. At first, scientists thought seals might be behind the holes, breaking through to breathe or haul themselves into the ice. But these craters were way too big for seals. The idea of a meteor strike didn't fit either. If it were a meteor, we'd see more scattered impacts. The theory of hot upwelling from warmer Arctic waters was also ruled out, as the craters were too small for that. The most intriguing theory, for now, is that whales could be punching breathing holes, but the verdict is still out. A study by the University of Minnesota found that a lot of twins who were separated at birth ended up having similar happiness levels later in life. Their research inspired further studies by researchers at the London School of Economics, who then identified a gene called 5-HTT, which influences serotonin production. They discovered that people with 2 long versions of the gene were better equipped to handle stress, focus on the positives, and avoid depression. In fact, after studying 2,500 Americans, over 35% of those who were happy had 2 long versions of the gene. In contrast, only 19% of those with 2 short versions were satisfied with their lives. So, our happiness may actually be completely out of our hands. It sounds wild, but just 90 minutes of heavy sweating without rehydrating can shrink your brain as much as a year of aging. UK researchers found that dehydration causes brain tissue to temporarily contract, leading to reduced cognitive function and concentration. The effect is so significant that it's comparable to 2.5 months of Alzheimer's progression. This is because our brains need water to maintain their size and function properly. So whether you're hitting the gym or just out on a hot day, make sure you drink enough water. An umbrella won't do you any good if you happen to be on WASP-76b, which is something known as an exoplanet. Exoplanets exist outside our solar system, and 76b is a big one. It's actually been compared to Jupiter in size, lying approximately 390 light years away. Like Jupiter, WASP-76b is made of gas, is incredibly hot, and is reportedly pelted with rain made of molten iron. Experts observed this eye-popping display in 2020. You'd think all living things need oxygen, right? Well, scientists just found some tiny animals living deep in the Mediterranean Sea that don't need it. The creatures are Loricifera phylum, miniature animals that evolved to survive in oxygen-free environments after the ocean's oxygen levels dropped and salts took over. Until this discovery, we didn't know any complex animals could thrive without oxygen. For now, scientists can't explain how the animals adapted, and it's triggered an avalanche of new research into what marine life might have been like around 600 million years ago. Type 2 diabetes happens when your body can't produce enough insulin or doesn't use it properly. This causes sugar to build up in your blood, which over time can damage nerves and blood vessels. It's a huge problem. Over 38 million Americans have diabetes, and 90 to 95% of them are dealing with type 2. Now, here's the disturbing part. A study found that people taking common antidepressants like SSRIs or tricyclics are twice as likely to develop diabetes. And doctors have known about it since 2008. What's even scarier is that the number of prescriptions for antidepressants keeps climbing, from 32.7 million in 2013 to 37.3 million in 2018. I'm not sure what that's supposed to tell us. If you've got some time, try this fun experiment with the kids, or just by yourself. Add some salt to a glass of water and see if the water level changes. They'll love it. When salt dissolves, its particles break apart and fit into the tiny spaces between water molecules so they don't add to the volume. Even though you're adding something to the water, the level usually stays the same, or might even drop a bit, because the salt is just filling in the gaps. It's a cool way to see how everyday things can behave in surprising ways. Don't coral reefs just sit there? They certainly don't. These epic formations under the sea are living things, a fact sometimes forgotten. So, what do they eat? Jellyfish, apparently. You've gotta feel sorry for the sea's squidgiest life form as it brushes over the reef. For starters, its bell is suddenly caught by a preying series of polyps, or sucker-like things measuring between 1 and 10 millimeters on average. These then digest the poor jellyfish in a matter of minutes. The Folkton drums are a fascinating archaeological find. Discovered in 1889 near Folkton in North Yorkshire, England, these 3 intricately carved chalk cylinders date back to the Neolithic period, around 2600 to 2100 BCE. And yet, despite their name, they're believed to be ceremonial or ritual objects rather than, actual drums. What's really fascinating is their possible link to ancient structures like Stonehenge. One recent study found that the cylinder measurements might have been used to lay out the incredible stone circles and other Neolithic monuments found across Britain. While the consensus is still out there on that one, it would be incredible if proven true. Vaccines are life-saving, but they can have unexpected consequences. Take whooping cough, for example. In 2012, the US had its worst outbreak since 1955, despite decades of vaccinations. It happened because the DTaP vaccine only targets one bacteria behind the disease, Bordetella pertussis. But there's another culprit, Bordetella parapertussis, and it's been thriving. In fact, vaccinated people are 40 times more likely to get lung infections from B. parapertussis because the vaccine doesn't protect against it. Vaccines can also push viruses to evolve. China learned this the hard way when hepatitis B vaccines caused the virus to mutate twice as fast. The flu virus does something similar. That's why we have to update the flu vaccines every year. The rule of thumb is that 1 inch of rain equals about 10 inches of snow, but the reality is a bit more complicated. It all depends on the type of snow. Very dry, fluffy snow can pile up to 20 inches from just 1 inch of rain, while heavy, wet snow might only accumulate to 4 inches. It's all about how much water the snow contains. So the next time you hear a winter storm forecast, remember that not all snow is created equal. And as a Floridian, that is the first time I'm ever even hearing that rule. So, we don't deal with a lot of snow. Don't know if you know that. Don't know if you snow that. No, this isn't the title of some 50s sci-fi movie, but an incredible scientific possibility. In 2021, findings were released from Queen's University in Belfast concerning these marine marvels, specifically their sleep pattern. Because humans have to go into hibernation on any potential deep space flight, they need to be protected against the ravages of time. Zebrafish seem to have this state of hibernation called torpor, or extreme lethargy, licked. Follow the ways of the zebrafish and we might be able to travel to the Red Planet a whole lot easier. The Denisovans, one of our ancient relatives, have already sparked a lot of questions in our quest to understand human evolution, but the plot has thickened. Recent DNA analysis has revealed that they mated with an unidentified species approximately 30,000 years ago. The exact identity of this mystery partner hasn't been discovered yet. All we know is that this species contributed to the Denisovans' distinctive set of teeth, which doesn't match anything found in the living world today. A Stanford study has found that people with psychotic disorders interpret auditory hallucinations differently based on their culture. In the US, patients almost always describe the voices as hostile and violent, feeling like they were under constant attack. But in Ghana and India, things were very different. Indian patients said the voices were playful or even helpful, like a relative giving advice. In Ghana, half the patients believed the voices came from God and didn't see them as a problem at all. Scientists now believe it all boils down to our cultural values. Americans tend to focus on independence and control, while Ghanaians and Indians define themselves through relationships. You struggling to fall asleep? A warm shower before bed might be the secret trick you're missing. Studies have shown that taking a shower an hour or two before bedtime can help you relax and fall asleep faster. It's all about the cool down effect after you step out, which signals to your body that it's time to wind down. So if counting sheep isn't doing the trick, try swapping your morning shower for a nighttime one. It might just be the sleep you never knew you needed. Almost as salty as seawater. In fact, there's a reported 98% match between the two fluids. This bloody good fact was discovered by René Quentin, a French biologist working in 1897. We're saltier than movie popcorn inside due to our heritage. Before life on Earth learned to walk, it was busy swimming around the oceans. In the spring of 1974, the Betts family found a strange silver orb on their Florida property after a fire. In a matter of weeks, the orb, which was about the size of a bowling ball, turned into the center of bizarre occurrences. It vibrated in response to music, rolled around on its own, and even seemed to change direction, fascinating everyone who saw it. The sphere quickly became a national obsession and attracted the attention of both the Navy and independent scientists. People held their breath in wait for some answers, and yet, even after extensive testing, including by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, scientists were unable to pinpoint its origin. While most agreed that it was probably man-made, its exact purpose and nature remain a mystery. Fatal familial insomnia, or FFI, is a rare genetic condition caused by a mutation in the PRNP gene, which leads to a buildup of abnormal prion proteins in the brain. Once it begins, it destroys the thalamus, the part of the brain that controls sleep, and victims can never sleep again. The symptoms are horrific. Patients stay awake for months, slipping into a half-dream state where they hallucinate and act out surreal visions, like miming the act of brushing their hair. As the condition worsens, they lose the ability to speak and then walk until their body shuts down completely. Death is inevitable, and there's no treatment for it. We've all heard that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but recent studies suggest that idea might have taken root just because of good marketing campaigns. While it does help break the overnight fast, hence break fast, and can provide an energy boost, skipping breakfast isn't necessarily bad news for everyone. In fact, most of us don't need food in the morning to feel energized and alert. It all boils down to individual needs and lifestyles. One person's breakfast can be another person's brunch, or even lunch for that matter. So while a balanced breakfast can set a positive tone for your day, it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's actually rare for me to eat breakfast. I rarely wake up hungry. If you thought an atomic bomb was powerful, wait till you hear the stats on hurricanes. A big enough storm contains enough energy for 10 of Mr. Oppenheimer's specials, and that's per second. We know this partly because of a crazy argument over which is tougher, a nuke or a hurricane. The situation was resolved by the NOAA, who went to the trouble of posting their answer on their website. It's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, for those who don't know. At first glance, Argentine ants might just look like your average ants, but these tiny insects have achieved something extraordinary. They've colonized 3 continents. And the best part? The super colonies of Argentine ants in Europe, South America, and Asia are all part of the exact same massive ant population with identical genetic traits. The immense geographical spread raises some fascinating questions. I mean, how? Despite their vast range, these ants recognize their colony mates instantly, but are hostile towards ants from other colonies. And what's even more remarkable is that their genetic code has remained more or less the same for thousands of years. Studies have found that heterosexual women with less attractive male partners tend to be happier and more satisfied overall. They believe it might be because men, who don't rely on their looks, make up for it in other ways, like planning more dates or putting extra effort into their intimate lives. On the flip side, women with more attractive partners often feel pressure to keep up. A different study showed that these women are more likely to diet or stress about their appearance, which can lead to dissatisfaction. It's interesting to note that men are not nearly as concerned if their partners are more attractive, which speaks volumes about how society's beauty standards disproportionately affect women. Caves really do breathe. They take in and release large amounts of air based on the changes in pressure outside. When the air pressure is high on the surface, the air gets pushed into the cave, creating a higher pressure inside. But when a low pressure system comes along, the air gets forced out, balancing everything out. The phenomenon is known as cave breathing, and it shows just how sensitive caves can be to pressure changes, moving air in and out like they're alive. Specifically, vitamin B12, which is good for your cells and has been linked to fighting cancer. I wouldn't recommend going outside and sticking your tongue out, however. You see, rain is vitamin-free when it falls from the sky. It needs to bounce off roofs and things before it collects all that natural goodness. And if you've seen the state of roofing in my neighborhood, you wouldn't want to walk under it, let alone drink from it. I know most of us don't give much thought to grazing cows, but a team of scientists who scoured thousands of Google Earth images made a curious discovery. Cows always face north or south while eating or resting. I kid you not, no matter the wind or other factors, this magnetic alignment holds true. This is the first time we've seen a large mammal with an apparent internal compass, and we have no idea why. Interestingly, cows closer to the poles seem to struggle with this orientation, making their alignment less precise. I promise I'm not out here to turn everyone into a vegan today, but disturbing science is disturbing science. Muscles store glycogen as energy, and after death, this glycogen breaks down into lactic acid. This process lowers the meat's pH, which is essential for slowing bacterial growth, preserving texture, and maintaining a fresh appearance. When animals are stressed before slaughter, they burn through their glycogen reserves, leaving little to convert into lactic acid. The result is meat that changes color, loses its tenderness, and spoils faster. The harsh reality? A spoiled animal, one that's well rested and unstressed, produces better meat. About 300 million years ago, higher oxygen levels in the atmosphere allowed insects to grow to massive sizes. The abundance of oxygen meant that they could absorb more through their bodies, enabling them to support larger forms. This is why creatures like dragonflies with wingspans of up to 2.5 feet once dominated the skies. With more oxygen fueling their growth, they didn't have to worry about their cells suffocating. If those conditions existed today, we'd be sharing the world with some pretty terrifyingly huge bugs. Well, okay, it does, but it needs to come in contact with something. The classic sound of wind whistling through the trees happens because of the trees, not the wind. It's categorized as an Aeolian sound, and it ranges from humming to howling to all kinds of bizarre soundtracks in between. From the sandstone cliffs of Europe to the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, a mysterious geometric pattern has been leaving its mark for 500 million years. The oldest examples date back to the Cambrian period, about 500 million years ago, and scientists are still puzzled. Are these shapes burrows from some ancient sea creature, or are they the imprints of the organism itself? To add to the mystery, researchers in the 70s found similar hexagonal patterns on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. By 2003, they uncovered subsurface tunnels matching those of Paleodictyon. However, when they retrieved samples from 3,500 meters or 11,500 feet deep, the burrows were empty and DNA-free, leaving scientists even more confused. Whether they're burrows or remnants of some ancient sponge-like creature remains an open question. Theories range from glass sponges and giant single-cell organisms to abandoned nests and worm farms cultivating bacteria. Leave it to the Germans to give us a word for something we didn't even know we needed. Alongside Schadenfreude, happiness at others' misfortunes, and Glücksschmerz, happiness at others' successes, we have Backpfeifengesicht, a face badly in need of a fist. Now, before you go labeling your boss as one, it's worth noting that the word refers to the face, not the person. As odd as it sounds, science actually backs this up. Researchers believe that in humanity's early days, when fighting came down to fists, male faces evolved to take a punch. Over time, our features became more delicate, but some faces retain traits that might explain why they seem extra punchable. Now, this doesn't mean steel can stretch more like a rubber band. It's actually about how well something bounces back to its original shape after being deformed. Steel has a higher Young's modulus, which means it resists changing shape better than rubber does. Under the same amount of force, steel barely bends, while rubber stretches all over the place. So while rubber might be great for flexibility, steel is the champ when it comes to returning to its original form, making it more elastic in the technical sense. Did you know a tornado can move as fast as 300 miles an hour, or in some cases, even faster? That's around 3 times the average of a regular tornado, so you don't have that much to worry about perhaps, although it is a tornado, so you should probably still worry. In 1999, one of these wild weather events was clocked in at 321 miles an hour, the fastest on record at Bridge Creek, Oklahoma. Whatever happens, when you see one of these things, you're gonna want to run for cover no matter what the average speed is. For the longest time, our favorite feline's purr was a bit of a mystery. According to new research, we now think that cats purr because muscles around their larynx contract, creating vibrations that produce that distinctive purring sound. But why exactly do they purr? That's still up for debate. According to one theory, purring might actually help with bone growth. The vibrations from purring occur at a frequency that can make bones harden and strengthen in response to the pressure. Oh, what do you think? Discovering a new species is usually exciting. It gives us hope and helps us understand the natural world a little better. But the force flies from Costa Rica? This one probably should have stayed hidden. It's tiny, just 20 millimeters long, but put it under a microscope and it looks like the kind of thing straight out of a monster movie. Amongst other things, the males have genital pinchers longer than their own bodies. Yeah, let's not go there. Scientists think these intimidating pincers are used to fight other males or to hold onto females during mating. Lovely. In a vacuum, all objects, whether it's a feather or a hammer, fall at the exact same rate. That's because gravity accelerates everything at a constant rate of 9.8 meters per second squared, regardless of mass. It's a bit counterintuitive because we're used to seeing lighter objects like leaves or paper fluttering down more slowly, but that's due to air resistance, not gravity itself. On the moon, where there's no atmosphere, astronaut David Scott famously dropped a feather and a hammer, and they hit the ground simultaneously. It's a striking reminder that under the same conditions, gravity treats everything equally, proving that what goes up must come down at the exact same speed. That's the approximate amount of time it takes for someone to fall asleep, on average. If you're taking below 5 minutes to nod off, then you might have a problem. And if it's taking more than 20 minutes, you also have a potential issue. Why? Allow me to explain. Important sleep studies were carried out by William C. Dement from Stanford. What a name. Dement helped establish healthy sleep times. Between 10 and 20 minutes is thought to be the sweet spot. If your sleep time is too low, it could mean you're sleep deprived. Too high, and you might be getting too much. Humpback whales are usually very solitary creatures, but a 2017 study from the University of Pretoria has uncovered a surprising shift. Lately, the majestic animals have been forming massive feeding groups of 20 to 200 off the coast of South Africa, and marine scientists are stumped. While an increase in the humpback populations might be a factor, it doesn't completely explain why these giants are suddenly congregating in such large numbers. Would you still enjoy beef if your steak looked like the animal it came from? Beef, chicken, pork, none of these resemble the creatures they once were. But oysters? They're served whole, looking nothing like more than a rock. Here's the thing though, oysters are actual animals. They have a mouth, stomach, heart, intestines, and muscles. They can live for 20 years, recognize threats, and even change gender multiple times. The only thing they don't have is a brain, which is why most people believe they can't feel pain. But according to science, it's not that simple. While oysters don't have a central nervous system to process pain the way humans do, they do have a basic nervous system. When threatened, they react by snapping their shells shut. This might indicate a response to harm, even if it's not conscious suffering. Our eyes are incredibly intricate, containing over 2 million working parts that seamlessly interact to create the images we see. The complex system makes the eye the second most complicated organ in the body, right after, you guessed it, the brain. Each component, from the cornea and lens that focus light to the retina with its millions of photoreceptor cells, plays a vital role in capturing and processing visual information. All of these inner structures work together to transform light into electrical signals, which are then sent to the brain to form the images we perceive. Amazing. It sounds strange, literally, but the truth is, sound prefers water to air. Why? It's all to do with lightness versus density. The particles in water caused by vibrations means it's a dense environment in which sound can move around. Sound definitely travels through air, but there are fewer particles, hence less energy for the waves. It moves around 4 times faster below the surface than over it. People have been both fascinated and horrified by spontaneous human combustion for centuries. I mean, what can be stranger than a person who bursts into flames with another source of ignition while their surroundings remain untouched? Modern forensic science has come up with one possible explanation known as the wick effect. It basically states that clothing can absorb melted body fat, acting as a candle wick. This slow-burning combustion can reduce a body to ashes while leaving nearby objects unharmed. But is the wick effect really enough to explain SHC? And the short answer is, not quite. We still don't know what actually triggers it. Over the years, various theories have been floated around, from bacteria and static electricity to obesity, stress, and the most popular one, excessive alcohol consumption. But none of these explanations have been backed up by solid science so far. As if doctors' questionable hand hygiene wasn't enough, imagine them poking around inside your brain while you're awake. During certain procedures, patients have to stay conscious so surgeons can monitor critical areas, like the parts controlling speech. And yes, it's as horrifying as it sounds. Your head is locked into place, a piece of your skull is missing, and your brain is out in the open. Some patients panic, cry, or even try to grab at their own brains. Learning a second language physically reshapes your brain. Research at the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences discovered that adults learning a new language experience significant changes in their brain's wiring. These structural transformations enhance cognitive abilities, making bilinguals better at problem solving, multitasking, and even resisting distractions. The best part? It's never too late to start. So whether you're tackling Spanish or diving into Mandarin, your brain will thank you for the upgrade. Squirrels gather nuts and seeds, but they can be careless about storage arrangements. Burying them under the ground is a good idea, keeping them out of sight of the other hungry creatures. The trouble is, squirrels often forget that they've left them there. Can you believe this happens in approximately 60 to 80% of cases? But nature doesn't mind though, because new trees grow and flourish from the hidden seeds. The moment we figured out that the universe is expanding, the discovery opened up a whole new set of questions, like how fast is it expanding, whether it'll keep going forever, and what it all means for us. And recent research has only added to the confusion. Not only are we no closer to solid answers, but we're also finding things that completely mess with our understanding. For instance, depending on how we measure it, the rate of the universe's expansion keeps giving us different results. If we calculate it based on the afterglow of the Big Bang, we get one value. If we measure it from the cosmic microwave background, we get another. And that shouldn't happen. In math, and in science for that matter, the correct answer should always be the same no matter what. Some experts even suggest we might need an entirely new branch of science to explain these discrepancies, because according to our current understanding, there can only be one true rate of expansion, and we haven't found it yet. Hospitals are infection hotspots. No surprises there. I mean, it's where all the sick people are, right? But in New South Wales, a year-long campaign tried to fix this by getting medical staff to clean their hands properly. At the end of the year, researchers checked the results and found that things had improved, but not by much. Their doctors were still the biggest culprits, with hand hygiene levels jumping from a shocking 26% to a still not so great 38%. Nurses, on the other hand, improved from 54 to 65%. Doctors even lost to allied health workers, who went from 40 to 48%. You might not realize it, but earthquakes are happening all the time. Over 1 million rock our planet every year, but most are so small they go unnoticed. These tremors usually last only a few seconds, but larger quakes can rumble on for minutes, causing massive destruction. Around 90% of all earthquakes occur at the plate boundaries, where Earth's tectonic plates are either colliding, spreading apart, or sliding past each other. And while we often think of earthquakes as devastating, it's important to remember that they're just the planet's subtle way of relieving stress. Just when we thought the art of love was dead in the animal kingdom, along comes Mr. Dragonfly. It starts during the species' mating ritual, when the male grabs hold of the female by the neck. Stick with me or it gets more enchanting. This action creates a heart-shaped wheel effect that's weirdly charming to look at. The origins of life on Earth have always been one of those big, mind-bending questions. Philosophers like to brood over the deep, existential riddle, while scientists dig in, literally, to uncover the answers. We've made some pretty incredible strides, especially with all the new tools and techniques at our disposal. But every now and then, just when we think we're getting close to figuring it all out, something totally unexpected shows up. Take the Canadian Rockies, for instance. They're full of strange alien-like creatures from the Cambrian period that just don't fit into our neat evolutionary models. While scientists are still looking for the answers, these discoveries are making us rethink everything. Over 2.5 billion adults are overweight, and nearly 900 million of them are obese as of 2022. 733 million people are suffering from hunger. That's it. That should be enough of a fact, but I'll just say one more thing about the statistic. There's a deep inequality in global food distribution. On one side, millions of people are dying from hunger and malnutrition, while on the other, excessive consumption leads to life-threatening health issues like heart disease and diabetes. The world's problems aren't just about scarcity, they're about imbalance. Onions aren't just for adding flavor to your meals. They might also be your new sleep aid. The humble veggies are packed with L-tryptophan, an amino acid known for its sedative properties. This compound can help you feel more relaxed and even promote better sleep by boosting serotonin and melatonin levels, the hormones that regulate mood and sleep. So while they won't replace your bedtime routine, a little onion boost might just help you catch some extra Z's. Or Z's. Let me know in the comments below if you guys say your Z's when talking about sleep. Catching Z's. Never thought about that. We'd be in a lot of trouble without antibiotics, right? That said, there is a downside to these medical miracles. Antibiotic resistance is known to happen if someone's popping pills without much of a reason, leading to bacteria changing and becoming resilient. They could be overdoing it with the medication, or the antibiotics aren't the proper solution for their issue. As ever, people, seek the best medical advice for anything that might be concerning you. Antibiotics are amazing, but they do have their limits. In 1992, German toxicologist Svetlana Balabanova made a discovery that left historians and scientists scratching their heads. While examining the mummy of Henutawi, she found traces of cocaine, hashish, and nicotine, substances that shouldn't have been there. Why? Well, because cocaine and nicotine come from plants native to the Americas, and as far as we know, those plants didn't make it to Africa until after Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So, how on earth did an ancient Egyptian mummy end up with a stash of New World substances? Was there some kind of ancient trade route we've never discovered? Or is there another explanation entirely? The mystery has sparked all kinds of theories, but so far it's just one puzzle science can't explain. The female of the species is not only deadlier than the male, but also harder to sink your teeth into. When sharks engage in mating, the male tends to hold himself in position by biting down on his partner. How romantic. So over time, females have grown thicker to cope with that nasty jaw action. This has been observed in blue sharks, for example.